Welcome girls, this video is just a very brief introduction to what resistance training is, and it's designed to give you some of the theory before we move on to our introduction in the weights room over the next few sessions. Apologies if you can hear my daughter in the background, she's helping me record today. So sometimes resistance training is referred to as weight training, but the one thing that all types of resistance training have in common is they use some kind of weight or resistance to improve or increase muscular performance. Now this resistance can be many different ways. So free weights, we call these barbells or dumbbells, perhaps medicine balls or kettle weights, any of those sorts of things that we're able to move in all different directions around a joint's range of motion. Machines, we will be using some of these in the weight room, but these don't allow quite as much freedom of movement, but they are a great option as a beginner because it basically puts your body in the correct position to use them safely. And finally, a final form of resistance can be your own body weight, and that's demonstrated in this picture here with a woman using her body weight as resistance doing press-up exercises. So there are three key components of fitness that we can develop through resistance training. These are all about muscular endurance, muscular strength, and obviously muscular power, which is a combination, as we know, of strength times speed. We use a series of exercises that are designed to specifically target muscles and over a period of time, as part of the training adaptation, increase those muscle fibers in size. Some of the terminology that we need to know will help us in developing the program that is best for us for whatever our goals are, but particularly if we're going to use resistance training as part of our duathlon training program. So when we talk about the amount of weight that we lift, we talk about something called the repetition maximum, and we use an RM to show what this means. This is basically the maximum amount of weight that can be lifted a certain amount of times. So if I want to lift that weight once, the RM will be the amount of weight that I can lift just one time. If I want to lift the weight 10 times in my set, then 10 RM will be the amount of weight that I'm able to lift 10 times. And that way we make sure we get the right amount of weight for the number of repetitions that we're doing. So reps or repetitions are the number of times that we want to lift that weight. And finally, sets will be a group of repetitions of an exercise. So if I want to do 3 sets of 10 repetitions, I will do the exercise 10 times, and then after a short break, repeat that another 10 times, and after another short break, repeat a final 10 times. So how does this tie into what we know about our principles of training? Well, first up, when we're looking at frequency, we're looking at about 3 days a week. So 3 days a week would be the minimum, with at least 24 to 48 hours rest between each session in order to have optimal recovery. With intensity, we measure this by the amount of weight lifted, and we measure it by RM, or the repetition maximum. There are some other ways that you can vary intensity, for example, varying the different types of contractions that you can perform during weight training, but we won't be getting into that too much. Now, overload, as we know, can be achieved by increasing duration, intensity, and frequency of sessions. So increasing the intensity or the amount of resistance, increasing the duration of training sessions or the number of sets, decreasing rest time between sets, or decreasing the amount of recovery time between sessions are all different ways that we can ensure we're getting overload, and particularly progressive overload over a period of time. And of course, specificity. Okay, we want to train the muscles and components of fitness that are relevant to our overall goal or activity. So just have a wee think, how could we use resistance training for duathlon? What components of fitness do we want to target? What muscles would be most useful to target? And have a think about whether resistance training would be more or less useful than some of the other methods of training that we've looked at. This is an example of some different training programs. So if we had a look at what we wanted to do for endurance, which is over here, and I'll just use a blue. So we're looking at endurance here. For endurance, we're looking at a lighter weight, so a weight that we can lift, 15 to 20 times as our RM, and we would actually lift it that many times. We'd do 2 to 3 sets at a medium speed, but we would take minimal rest, okay, because we're just working on the endurance side of things. Remember that endurance is one of our health-related components of fitness. You can then see that this increases as we move on to a strength program. So the weight increases, but the number of reps decrease. Okay, so there's that relationship there. 2 to 3 sets again, and we can make these movements a little bit slower so the contraction happens over a greater period of time. And here we need to factor in some more rest time as we've been increasing the intensity of the session. And you'll see how that steps up again when we look at the advanced strength program. Okay, so here we use a very heavy weight, 2 to 6 RM. This is the weight that I can lift 2 to 6 times and no more than that. Okay, you do, however, greater number of sets and have a greater number of rest time in between those sets. Okay, and finally we have power. Here we can use a load, a lighter load, so a load that we can lift more often, and we do 4 to 8 reps, but the speed that we use is quite different. So for power training, we do the contraction in a fast and explosive way. So these are just a few different examples of different resistance training programs. Which one do you think would be most relevant to our duathlon training program? And I'm just going to get you to pause the video and see if, as well as answering which one you think would be most relevant, if you can give some reasons why it would be the most relevant one. So a few things to remember. Safety is really important, especially in the weights room. We make sure that we've got shoes on so that we're protecting our feet just in case we or someone else drops the weight. Only lift what you can manage and make sure you're overloading the body progressively. So don't go too hard too soon. You should follow a basic endurance or a basic strength program before moving on to an advanced strength or power program. You need to make sure that you rest injuries and have a spotter if you think you need one. When we go into the weights room and have our introduction, we'll also be learning about safe technique, how to protect our joints, and how to get the maximum results with the movements that we're doing. So girls, I hope that's given you a really brief overview, and there'll be some notes to complete on this for your next round of homework.